So I was never really involved in any type of physical activity as a child. More so than anything, I didn't even really partake in a lot of sports. But in the last sort of decade, I found powerlifting and I competed in it. And in more recent years, I found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Really, really loved the game and competed in a couple of those competitions as well. And last year, for those who aren't aware, I also became a dad. And I do get asked a lot of questions about how can I stay healthy and fit outside of having an external motivator like a competition? How can I stay healthy and fit in order to ensure my health and fitness doesn't deteriorate? Trying to be a dad, working full time, and trying to compete as well. These are just some of the things that I've worked out that works for me. Hope this helps for you. Let's go. So before I jump into some of the tips and tricks I've used in the last year or so, some of you might have actually seen this. For those who don't know, this is Chris Bumstead, probably regarded as one of the most successful bodybuilders of our generation. And I mean, look at this man. It will probably drive a straight man to consider their sexuality. In the last year or so, he's actually become a father. And whilst we do see in social media, he's obviously prepping for a show currently as of this recording, he is also doing his fatherly duties. Some clients have reached out to me and say, well, if Chris Bumstead is able to do all of these things, why can't we? Chris is a genetic freak. Not to mention, he is also a hustler. He's able to train and get to where he is at this point in time, and he is also an entrepreneur. Therefore, his situation is probably not going to be the same for most of us mere mortals. It is very likely as well that because he is at the level where he is at right now, he's able to get a lot of extra help, and he's able to leverage the financial stability that he has obtained over the last decade, more than likely, to get people to help with things like the cooking and all that kind of other stuff, which frees him up time to train and also do his fatherly duties to his daughter, and of course being a good husband as well. So enough of Chris. What about me? What have I been doing that I found successful? Well, first off, the irony, I think, is that whilst I'm wearing this powerlifting hoodie, I don't actually train that long anymore in the gym. However, I am still making gains. And from these progress pictures that you can see, oof, I hate putting this up in the public eye, you are still able to make progress as long as you are smart with your training. What training currently looks like is me getting up at about 5, quarter past 5 in the morning, getting into the gym and being very efficient with my workouts. Full range of motion, short rest times, pushing things close to failure, and getting in and getting out about 45 to 60-minute sessions about 3 times a week. This allows me to build that strength and muscle and all that kind of good stuff, which obviously allows me to stay in shape for the most part, prevent injuries when I go and train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as well as giving me that sense of peace, because let's be honest, I enjoy being in the weight room. Outside of the weight room, I also do try to get in about 1 to 2 aerobic sessions a week, and this comes in the form of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And before anyone says anything, yes, I am in a cult. I do think every person, especially when you're hitting your 30s, should give Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a try. This is a great way to not only make new friends, pick up a new hobby, really check your ego at the door, as well as getting a really good workout in. So I try to do this about 1 to 2 times a week. On top of that, I also try to get about 1 to 2 sessions, ideally 3 when I get the chance, of flexibility training. I'm starting to realize that whilst being strong is great, not being able to pick up something from the floor because my back is so tight is not so great. And while some people might be watching this video and arguing you don't really need mobility and flexibility training, I tend to disagree. I think it is very important, especially as we age and as we get older, to be able to be as mobile as we can. Hence, flexibility training coupled with strength training is giving the mobility I need for my day-to-day, especially in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. Other things that I tend to do in order to live an active and healthy lifestyle, and this is something that not a lot of people talk about: mental health. I try to do this every day just to keep my mental health in check. Read a couple pages of a physical book and try to journal every day. Look, mental health I think is very important, and clearly I'm not a therapist, but these are 2 things that I do on a daily basis, which doesn't actually take more than 5 to 10 minutes, which I do find becomes a really good way to get in tune with your mental health and just understanding what you're going through and almost look at your life from a third-person perspective. Now, what about nutrition? From those progress pictures that you saw earlier in the video, I actually lost about 4 to 5 kilos since December up to this point.
And all of this was actually done without tracking a single macronutrient. However, I do follow these very basic principles, and these are the principles I do talk about when I coach someone for their nutrition. If you do need some help, you can check out the links below. These principles are very, very simple. Keeping about 4 to 5 servings of vegetables and fruit a day. That's like a bare minimum for fiber intake, which is good for gut health and obviously gut motility. Getting your micronutrients in. Shooting for about 4 servings of protein a day. And one of the biggest things that I do tend to find is because whilst only 3 gym sessions sounds very little, I'm actually moving a lot outside of those gym sessions, being very active in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Therefore, I also tell myself that I'm able to spend time with the family, go out, have a good meal or two, get some Uber Eats. Let's be honest, this is the way I like to live life. People say don't order Uber Eats, but in the end of the day, a service is a service, and sometimes you just finish a long day of work and all you want to do is not cook and get a good meal in. Look, in the end of the day, I am not perfect, and these 3 gym sessions, these sort of 2 to 4 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sessions a week, journaling, reading a book, cooking healthy meals, eating out occasionally, these are just all of things that I find doing, particularly getting into this sort of weird limbo of fatherhood, has been very helpful for my overall health and fitness. Health and fitness, while sounding quite synonymous, is actually quite different. Being fit means you're quite strong and you're quite mobile and you have the aerobic or anaerobic capacity to run and chase your kids around. Being healthy means more than likely you're not at risk of any type of metabolic disease, but more importantly, being also very healthy and sound in your own head, mental health. Again, these are some of the things that I have found quite useful structuring out my week, particularly going into this phase of my life. So hopefully this helps, hopefully this gives you some insights, and that's the key. Staying as active as you can, eating good food, keeping your mental health in check, that's usually the way to go when we're looking at getting or maintaining your health, especially when there are no external motivators in place.